Hi, welcome to Midwest Magic Cleaning. My name is Boneless Brisket Flat. That is my name. I wanted to talk about a subject that I didn't even really know existed until recently. As some of you know, I have been working on a house that I walked away from after we got done with 4 major rooms. You can watch the videos. There are 4 of them in total, and I'll put them in a playlist or something so they're easy to find. I'm not doing great. That house affected me more than any other house that I've ever worked on, emotionally and physically, but mostly emotionally. And I thought I was going through a major depression, which I am. I also thought maybe it was burnout, which I found out it's not. It's what's called STS, which stands for secondary traumatic, not syndrome, stress. Secondary traumatic stress. It's also known as compassion fatigue. Don't get in the pan. It is basically you going through stress as a result of witnessing somebody else's trauma, especially if it's trauma that you yourself have been through in the past. So some of you know, in fact a lot of you know, who have been around this channel for a while, that I grew up very, very poor. I always call it eat once a day poor because we literally were eating once a day. I had a mother who was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and the only way she escaped alcoholism was to throw herself into deep drug use. At first it was weed, then it got to the point to where she was doing so much weed that I saw her smoking more than I saw her not smoking. At any given moment, you could walk into the kitchen or walk into her bedroom or the living room, and she was either just lighting up weed or she was just finishing, and it wouldn't be long before she'd start doing it again. That ended up going to cocaine, then meth, then back then it wasn't meth, it was crank. Pills, and just all kinds of anything to let her escape reality and catch her a buzz. My dad was an extreme alcoholic, really extreme. When he died, he was over 400 pounds. In most of his life, he was built like me. I'm 6'4" and around 205, 210 pounds. My dad was about 6'5" and about my weight for most of his life, but the alcoholism destroyed his liver so bad that eventually he ended up getting a bunch of weight problems and problems with diabetes. We had to have a special coffin to bury him in because he was too big to fit in a regular coffin. His arms would bow out the side. He died at 49 years old. Mom had a stroke when she was, I don't even know, in maybe her 50s. And she lost control of most of her body. Her entire left side was paralyzed. I won't make this a giant diatribe on my victimhood of life. But it was tough. We were very poor. My parents spent all their money on their addictions. And so what most people have in their normal life, say for Christmas, we didn't really have stuff like that. Christmas was when you got things that you needed, like clothes and deodorant and stuff like that. We would get shoes once a year, usually whenever school started, and then they would just be cheapo Kmart shoes because Walmart didn't really exist at the time. And we would have to wear those all year, but because they were so cheap, they would blow out within a couple of months, and we would just have to bear it. We would just have to have no soles on the shoes. Socks that had holes in them, your toes would constantly go through them. Anyway, We had a lot of trauma growing up, and I lived in one of those families that, because there was so much trauma, they didn't know how to handle things like stress and confrontation. So every conversation would be some normal anecdote that somebody would tell, and then if they get a fact wrong, the other person would step in and try to correct the fact, and then it would go from, here's this amusing little story that I wanted to tell you, to this screaming match over whether this story happened in 1964 or 1968. It was ridiculous. No one had any clue what they were doing with communication whatsoever. Everything became a conflict. Everybody had an opinion. Most of those opinions were stupid. Because of this, I ended up becoming a severe alcoholic from the ages of like 19 clear through my 30s. I eventually got past it. It's very hard even to this day to not get a 12-pack and a carton of cigarettes and just bury myself in buzz. And there's a reason I'm telling you all this. It's because a lot of what I witnessed in several of the houses that I've done of recent have been that exact same thing. It is people going through all the worst crap of my life, and me kind of reliving those really bad memories through what I'm witnessing in their pain. Also, I'm autistic. Normally I edit my voice to take out pauses. I'm not editing this one because I'm entirely too tired. And so you're gonna have to, handle the ums and the pauses and whatnot. Anyway, it's been difficult, and this last house really broke me. And so for the past week or two, I've just been trying to settle myself and unspaghettify my brain, untangle them, un-ramen noodle them. And it's been difficult. I've lost sleep. I can't make myself get out of bed in the morning because I'm so extraordinarily exhausted. It's hard for me to even sit up and just get out of bed. I had a considerable amount of time where I was having panic attacks so frequently that I had to go to the doctor and get emergency medication for when those do happen because my regular anti-anxiety meds were not working. Or they were working to control the normal anxiety I had, but they did not work for big panic attacks that hit me throughout the day. And when I say I was having those, it was very frequent. I was having multiple panic attacks per day, and it got to the point to where I was on the verge of throwing up, like physically getting sick, pretty much every day for about 3 to 4 weeks. It's that feeling of like when you have the flu and you know you're going to throw up and you are just praying that it goes away because it's the most awful feeling in the world. And that's what I was doing. That's what I've been going through for almost a month. I had been told about compassion fatigue from several of my viewers, and so I finally started doing research into it. I was aware of what it was before because I'm educated in abnormal psychology and regular psychology, but I didn't realize how severe it could be. And the really funky thing to me is that it mimics in many ways burnout, especially autistic burnout. But it's caused by different things, and it manifests a little bit differently. Regular burnout is typically caused by kind of a general overworkedness and a dissatisfaction in the job that you're doing, or the task, or the chore, or your just daily life. It becomes so repetitive and so exhausting that you get what is the equivalent of an extremely severe depression. You're physically exhausted, your brain is foggy. Compassion fatigue is a lot like that, except the causes of it are what I explained a little bit earlier. in that it is caused by experience with somebody else's trauma, especially if it relates to trauma that you yourself have gone through as a child, as an adult, or whatever. It's why some people want trigger warnings when discussing sensitive topics, such as SA and stuff like that, alcoholism, addiction. Some people want a trigger warning. So anytime you've heard somebody say that and you've been like, oh, what a bunch of pussies, they just need to grow up and learn to deal with the world, part of that is compassion fatigue. They hear other people's stories and they just break down because it brings up theirs. So it's one of the reasons I never give people crap if they want trigger warnings for subjects like that. I may even put a trigger warning on the thumbnail of this video. So one of the reasons I'm telling you about that is because after I got done with this house over the course of like a month, I realized that I'm going to have to not step away from the channel, but I definitely have to step away from the types of people that I'm helping for a bit, because this was extremely difficult. Oh, hey, note to self, get more aluminum foil. You're out. When you watch this back, make a note to yourself, as I'm doing now, to get more aluminum foil. Idiot. So, I cannot do another hoarding disorder house for a while. I just can't. It's too much for me to handle, and it's not just the physical stuff. If it was just a physical issue, I can handle that, because if it was, like in a perfect scenario, Jason and I would go into a house, we would set somebody up with a hotel for about 2 weeks. We would go in and do our things, make our decisions, clean their house. There you go, here's your miracle. They come back and they enjoy the rest of their lives and we go our direction. That would be perfect scenario. But what we end up doing is we're working with people with hoarding disorder, and their disorders are extremely difficult to deal with. There is often a certain amount of narcissism that happens with somebody who's got hoarding disorder. There are extreme control issues. They get extremely mad at you if control is taken away. It's not always just the timer for 2.5 hours.
2 hours and 30 minutes, starting now.
That's not what I said. I said 2.5 hours. Anyway. But there are massive control issues, and it is a battle to get them to recognize why you're doing what you're doing. It's not as hard to get them to throw away something. That's kind of the easiest section of all this. It's trying to get them to recognize and own the fact that they have a disorder, and that the disorder is the thing that's making them throw a fit about a knife sharpener or an empty cardboard box. And that's really frustrating. I had a chair that I was getting ready to throw away from the last house that we worked on, and it had black mold on it in the cloth part of the chair, to the point that there was no getting any of it out. The back of the chair was broken off, screws were gone, bolts were gone. Chair was covered in cat urine, mouse poop. I told her, I can't let you keep this. I'm sorry, I just can't. It's a health issue. You already have emphysema. You already have stage 2 kidney failure. I can't let you have this thing that's covered in all this stuff, and especially the black mold. And she threw a fit and said, I'm not throwing them away. And I was like, then it's gonna stay outside, because I'm not letting it stay in the house. And she said, fine, bring it outside, and kind of got shitty. And then I finally just kind of yelled at her and went, black mold will kill you. I don't like to do things like that. I don't like to raise my voice and stuff, but I don't think she had had anybody in her life that would just put their feet down and just give them straight to their face a really healthy check of reality. And she finally let us throw them away. But it was a battle through most of the time we were there. The family didn't complain to my face, but very much did so after I was gone. I have contacts who were in contact with them. They let me know very straight up the trash talk that happened after I left. I told this person, look, I know that happens. It doesn't matter to me. It would be like if somebody, like if I went to see a football game and somebody said, hey, that person in the other stadium in the next town over was saying you suck. That doesn't mean anything to me. It's another person way, way, way over there. And that's what I try to keep myself doing, is keep myself separated emotionally and mentally from these cleanings, so that whenever I walk away, I truly walk away. And I have to keep that in mind, because when I don't do that, that's whenever I get into compassion fatigue, and that's when my brain breaks. So, as you can tell, I don't write scripts for these things. I just get on here and start talking. And so I apologize if any of this seems rambly, because normally I will sit in front of my microphone and just talk and then edit out the parts that are too talky. But I had to be straight up with you. I've got to take a little bit of time away from this madness. It's breaking my brain. It's breaking me physically. I can't sleep. I'm on the verge of throwing up all the time. My panic attacks are getting a little bit better. The medication worked a little bit. But mostly it's just me separating myself from that environment, because it wasn't just the house, it was the way the family communicated. There's a major communication issue among most of the family there. Small stories turn into conflicts, and before you know it, some person's so angry they're shaking, and it's like, no, this needs severe therapy, like intense therapy to get past. And all I could think of the whole time I was there was, this is exactly what I escaped when I moved out of my hometown in like 1995 or 1993, something like that. I left that town and never looked back. And anytime I'm brought back into that environment, it just sends me into panic attack mode. And I think a lot of people forget that I'm autistic because I'm pretty decent at masking it. But when you combine compassion fatigue, or STS, and autism together, it's very difficult for me to continue doing what I'm doing. It's the fight or flight kicks in, and there's a part of me that just says, I want to shut it all down and go away. But those are only fleeting, and those thoughts only pop up when I'm in severe panic attacks. And for the last month, I'm dealing with several a day. Anyway, don't worry, I'm not shutting the channel down. I love what I'm doing. I'll continue doing what I'm doing. I've got another house that we may have lined up for this coming week, but for this week, this is what you get. You get me ranting in front of a wet cooked French brisket, leaning over my stupid kitchen peninsula thing because I don't know if I'm too tall to be in frame. I don't know if I could get the meat and me in frame. I don't know. Let me stand up and see. I don't know. So I apologize for not having a full-fledged cleaning video this week. I can't. I had Jason come over and I had him clean for me so that I could relax, and then I finally got myself up and told myself, you got to do some chores, do laundry, cook yourself something, you got to move around and get functional. But I couldn't walk into another hoarder house again, and I likely won't after this, unless they're a low-level hoarding situation or they're getting therapy. I'm not walking into something that's that severe ever again without them having a psychological safety net, or an agreement that they're just going to leave, allow me to throw away whatever I want, and they can just come home when I'm done. It's too much. You suffer a lot of abuse from that, you get blamed for a lot of the issues. I always warn them, yes, there is going to be some things that are thrown away that you like and that were perfectly good. It's going to happen. But they always agree to it and they're fine with it until it happens, and then they're not anymore. That's common. But anyway, I've said anyway a lot in this video. So I'm going to take the weekend off. I'm going to rest. I'm going to find a new game to play because I've already beat Expedition 33 twice. I'm going to find something fun to play. I'm going to watch some YouTube videos. I'm going to pet my cats. I'm going to eat this brisket later and then complain that I ate way too much of it. And then I will be back this coming week to start a new house, hopefully. If you're a member, I did not do a members live this week. If I ever don't do a members live, it's because I'm in an issue. It's because I'm mentally so bad that I can't even like post on the community tab that I'm not going to do one. I just have to say, for your own mental health, you have to pretend these people don't exist, and you have to do something for yourself, because you're going to drive yourself to a burnout that's so severe you're not going to be able to continue the channel. If you ever have questions about that, go look up Al Blades. Al Blades was killing it and doing an incredible job, still is, but he got so burnt out and so depressed and such bad mental health that he had to just basically abandon his channel for months and months and months on end, until he finally just popped up one day and said, here's what I'm going through. So here's what I'm going through. I will keep you guys updated on any new house that we've got, but I would expect to see another video coming out this coming weekend. But until then, I'm gonna go do my thing. I'm gonna go live life for myself for a little bit, and then I will see you guys this weekend. Members, I'll see you this Wednesday. Everybody else, I'll see you next Saturday. Later.